Hello again and welcome to the Marketplace. This is where we analyze the markets, talk about trends and investments and how global developments are impacting on business activities right here in Ghana. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafe, and coming up in this afternoon's edition, employers insist they would not be able to pay workers high wages owing to the current economic hardship as tripartite committee fixes new minimum wage at 8 Ghana cedis 80 pesos. Also in this bulletin, COCOBOD warns it will withdraw licenses of inactive produce buying companies after this year's crop season, which is expected to end in the next few weeks. And the government has again returned to the international market to raise funds from investors through the Eurobond issue. So these are the headlines, but of course we have other stories coming up as well. You can stay interactive with us by tweeting at JoyBusinessGH and by Facebooking Joy Business is our page. For more business news, go on to myjoyonline.com/business. We're taking a short break. The details come up shortly. Thank you very much for staying. Welcome back to the Marketplace. Now, some economists say enforcement is key if the increased daily minimum wage is to yield the desired results. Some business operators are concerned the current economic situation makes it challenging for them to implement the increase. But are these concerns justified? George Riafe has more.
Government yesterday announced an 8% jump in the national daily minimum wage. This should mean that no employer in the country should pay below this amount. But that might not be the situation on the ground, as most workers in the informal sector are being paid far below this amount. So let's do some calculations here. If, for instance, you're being paid 8 Ghana cedi 80 pesos a day, then your take-home pay could be about 264 Ghana cedis. But it appears there are a lot of workers out there who are taking far below this amount. For labor economist Dr. Barb Watson, he believes that the Labor Department must be resourced to enforce this new daily minimum wage, whilst the workers must also cooperate.
If you are a worker and you are being cheated and you are not able to voice it out, then the regulator will not even be able to know that you are being cheated. And of course, but the bigger responsibility is on the regulator. And here we are talking about the government institution, which the Labor Department are mandated to do the enforcement.
But for some business owners in the formal sector, their concern is the ability to pay, not that they don't want to pay. Alex Frimpong is the executive secretary of the Ghana Employers Association.
For instance, 10% of 8 cedis is 80 pesos, but 10% of maybe 2,000 will be 200 cedis. So looking at percentages, you may think that is small, but if you look at the base for the various enterprises, you realize that the situation is quite different.
Well, for some workers, the adjustments present an opportunity to push for some salary increment when they go to the negotiating table for pay hikes starting next year. But also, what could be the implications of this on government's wage bill starting January 2017? And will government have the necessary revenue to meet this demand? According to the 2016 supplementary budget, the state is setting aside almost 12 billion Ghana cedis to take care of wages and salaries of those workers in the public sector. There are also concerns about the real value of this 8 Ghana cedis 80 pesos as the new daily minimum wage.
Meanwhile, Joy News' Michaela Anderson has been sampling the views of a section of the public on the new minimum wage.
It comprises the Ghana Employers Association and organized labor led by the TUC and the Secretary General with the Ghana Federation of Labor, supported technically by the Compensation Department of the Ministry of Finance and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission.
We sincerely apologize for that wrong footage. Now let's move on to other stories. COCOBOD has warned it will withdraw license of some inactive produce buying companies after this year's crop season expected to end in the next few weeks. This, according to the regulator, is part of measures to weed out companies that are not complying with the industry guidelines. Speaking with Joy Business, Deputy Chief Executive in charge of operations, James Kofi Kuswati, said the sanctioning process would begin with an evaluation process in the coming weeks. All right, let's take a quick break here. We return with the stories. Thank you very much for staying. This is the marketplace. Now, government has returned to the international market to raise some funds from investors through the Eurobond issue. This was contained in a notice issued by the Finance Ministry a while ago. George Rafi has been going through the statement and now joins me right here in the studio to tell us more. What's at stake? Has the fundraising started and how much are we taking?
Let me first bring all our viewers up to date why we're here. And do you remember that last month, the Finance Ministry went into the international market with approval from Parliament to raise up to $1 billion. Now, due to some circumstances, that amount was reviewed to about $500 million. Okay. Now, what we got from the ministry was that due to some problems, they decided just to issue about $100 million through a different approach. So they didn't raise the money itself, but they said that the market conditions were not good. So they are returning back to the country and then they'll go back again. So that is why we are here. But the ministry is saying that they're going back to do this fundraising.
So this time is $500 million and not $1 billion.
As of now, we're still not clear because depending again on the market conditions, the price that investors will be asking for, the interest that will be asking for, that would influence the amount that government would take at the end of the day. But don't forget the approval from Parliament is that they are seeking to raise up to $1 billion, and they could bring it down to $800 million, they could bring it down to $600 million, they could bring it down to even $200 million. At what rate we are hearing, and it's not true, that basically government is targeting 9%. So anything above that, it might be difficult. Government doesn't want to go in for that. What are they using these funds for? Basically to pay off the 2017 bond that is maturing. Some of them will also go to finance some projects outlined in the budget and some other issues, some infrastructure projects that they want to use it for, and as well as pay down some other local bonds that are maturing.
So apart from the interest rates, I mean, that accompanied the issue the other time, was there any other consideration again, apart from the...
I mean, you asked whether the market conditions are good right now. It's a yes or no answer. Because there are some people who are looking at developments in the U.S. market, in the European Union, since you are targeting international investors. So what will draw them to participate in your bond? When you look at the U.S. market, you want to look at the Federal Reserve's decision to actually hike their rate before the end of this year, let's say their central bank. So some will say that, can you quickly go into the market and raise that money now? So when you look at that angle, now might be good. Don't forget developments in the UK as well. The decision to exit from the European Union. Most investors who have investment in pound-denominated assets are looking at elsewhere. And is Africa, is Ghana an option for you? Yes, you'll bring our money, but at what rate and what are the risks as well? So it looks like if the rate is good, if they should get 8%, if they should get 9%, it might be good. And therefore, they can go right now and then raise this money from investors on the international market. But it looks like what we are picking up is that the fundraising is going on as of now.
Now, some experts also raised the concerns that because of the uncertainty surrounding our elections, perhaps that could also be a factor. And then as well as the IMF review process, which is still not ready yet.
When you put that issue to the Finance Ministry, the argument is that they've given commitments that if it's about the fund program, we are sticking to it. And if it's about elections, the promise is that we will not overspend or we won't go spend outside the budget. So you are sure that if you lend to us, we will have the ability to turn those funds around and pay your money to you back on time. So those are the concerns that any investor would look at. That we have, if I'm giving you $100,000, what is your current status as Mr. Yafe? Can you turn these funds around quickly to pay it back on time and at a good rate? Or your status is very suspicious. The fact that you have too much debt on your table and your ability to pay that money back on time will be a problem. Then I'll say that even though I want to give that money to you, you need to, I would factor in that risk and that could see the rates going up. Now, don't forget, we borrow these funds in dollars.
Yeah.
So the more the rates goes up, the impact it has on our local currency, where we always need to turn around more Ghana cedis to pay it back. When you go through the 2016 budget, we've set aside almost about 12 billion or even 13 billion Ghana cedis just as interest on funds that we've borrowed.
Sure.
So you look at the implications if some economists or some analysts are worried about what price are we going to pay for this bond that we are issuing.
All right, so before you go, could you tell us anything about the IMF review for now?
When you go through the statement, they say that they've met all the conditions. They think that they've done very well, and they'll get the pass mark from the board when they meet the middle of this month. They give a progress when the team came here, what they've done, and all those things, and some of the critical targets or performance targets that the fund was looking for or looking up to. They've met all those critical targets, and they
Are
think
they
that
enough to predict the
and
fund's
from government's perspective, they believe that middle of this month board review would indeed come on. So we all wait and see.
All right, so let's wait and see. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Riafe.
All right, so that was George Riafe, my colleague, telling us about government decision to return to the international market to raise funds for development. Now, it's on the marketplace. And moving on, let's go back to our earlier story where Michaela Anderson, Joy News, decided to sample the views of some workers in town about the new minimum wage.
Yesterday increased the minimum wage by 10% for workers. This means that starting from next year, January, the minimum wage will be 8 Ghana cedis, 80 pesos. Well, workers are happy, but the Ghana Employers Association is unhappy about the new development. They are saying they cannot implement the new minimum wage. So we are here on the street to speak to some people as to what they make first of the new increments, and then what the employers are saying that they cannot pay. So I have here with me Richmond and Jeff. So Richmond, what do you make of the new increments in the minimum wage?
I think it's a good thing the government has decided, because Ghanaians are really working and they are not seeing any provision for the work they do. I think it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. And we wish that, as he has said it, he have to implement it. Because we can just imagine someone will take off from the house just to go and work, and a day he will be marked 5 cedi. At the end of the month, he will be earning about 100 cedi. Just imagine that the person has children who are being enrolled in school. What does he make of 100 cedi? I think it's a good thing that our leaders need to do for us. That is the best thing we can have from them.
Okay, so Jeff, you too, what do you think about the new the increment?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. We like it, because right now, nowadays, with that money, no living thing. Because right now, if you are working under somebody, is paying you a week, like a month, less than 1,500 or 150 or something. You just imagine the place where you are before coming to the work. You just imagine the lot of fare you take and so and so. I think the idea is good, but still now, if it is me, it's more than that. I like it, because right now, if you pay me this amount of money, how can you go work and be happy? And there is no money, no work, and happiness. And he's supposed to do that too. Yes, okay. I like that.
Okay, but the issue is that the Ghana Employers Association are saying that, well, they cannot implement this new wage because it's too much. The cost of living is high. They are paying too many taxes. And what do you think about it?
I think when such issue pop up, the leaders need to be rather concerned about the interest of the public, because you can't be in a country where when government make any policy, you just come out to condemn it. They can come down to the workers' level, know the interest of the workers, then I think they make agreement with them. It is the best thing the government have done. They can't just come out to speak at it.
All right, so to throw more light on this new minimum wage developing, we've been joined on the line by a labor consultant, Austin Game, to share some thoughts. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the marketplace.
Afternoon. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you. Now, what's your impression about the new minimum wage, and do you think it reflects current economic conditions?
Well, first of all, I think it was a useful. Can I go on?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it was a very useful deliberation between the social partners, and this is what they have agreed to abide by. So I think it's a reflection of the inflation and the actual turnout. They considered that and think that rounding it up, a 10% adjustment would be ideal for this at this point in time.
Now, so what are the considerations when the National Tripartite Committee meets? Because workers are demanding more, and employers are saying that it's not that they will not be able to pay, but current conditions makes it difficult for them to pay. So what are the issues that come up during the negotiation table?
I think whichever way, it is an unfair spend on the part of either party, because a National Tripartite Committee meeting is not for the constitution of one of the social partners. Under normal circumstances, deliberations begin and they form a subcommittee of the National Tripartite Committee. The subcommittee will determine variable things and take a look, especially at the inflation of the past and the projection and the actual. We should have been talking about restoration of between 7.6, 8% thereabout, rounded up normally, taking into consideration other effects or impact of the generality of prices. We normally will round it up, and I think the rounding up brought it to the 10%. So it is the appropriate thing to do at this point in time. Anything that would have been breaking the cycle of the rules as we know it.
So at this time, what should we do to empower workers to actually demand what they really need for remuneration purposes?
Well, it's not so much about demand. It's about what is in the best interest of the organization to keep the company going, to keep the workers also protected in the business, and to satisfy the customers as well. All these things are taken into consideration in determining what a wage bill should be, because it's just a part of or if you like, a portion of the total labor cost and the operational cost of the organization. And so if people are demand-driven about getting just the question of their portion, leaving out the other things that go with total wage bill, then we'll be doing ourselves a disservice. And I'm surprised to hear that the employers side, which I'm quite familiar with also, are saying that they pay so much taxes. How do we construct roads? How do we construct our medical demands? How do we clean the country if we don't take taxes? I am an employer myself. I pay taxes as well. So it's neither here nor there. The important thing is you share information with your workers. Let them be aware of the totality of the income of the organization. If you open up for them, they may not even go up to 10%. They could go more if the company is doing very well. So it's about sharing relevant information with the workers and be open to them. If you do that, then they know that you are very honest. They will go along with you in any way possible.
All right. So the negotiation should be based on a win-win situation for both workers on one side and as well as employers.
Yeah. Precisely, it should be in the best interest of all the parties involved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Austin Game, for that insight. Labor consultant Austin Game sharing his thoughts on the new minimum wage. Now, COCOBOD has warned it will withdraw licenses of some inactive produce buying companies after this year's crop season expected to end in the next few weeks. This, according to the regulator, is part of measures to weed out companies that are not complying with the industry guidelines. Speaking with Joy Business, Deputy Chief Executive in charge of operations, James Kofi Kutuati, said the sanctioning process would begin with an evaluation process in a few weeks.
When the season ends, what we do is that we evaluate them. Those who perform, we encourage them to go on. We renew their licenses. But those who do not perform, we withdraw their license. It goes before a committee called COSMAC, a Cocoa Sector Marketing Committee. They look at it, and then if your performance was not satisfactory in the previous season, based on the laid down guidelines, we apply the sanctions.
Are we looking at any withdrawal in this year again?
Well, to be too mature now, but then I can assure that definitely there will be some companies.
Now, the Upper West Regional Capital, WA, is not only noted for some commercial ventures, but also known for the exclusive tourist attractions. In recent times, the Upper West region has attracted some major investments which are contributing to the transformation of the city. One such investor and an entrepreneur, Stephen Mwenkara, owns one of the most sought-after hotels in WA. He tells a story on a repeat of the Joy Business Van.
It's an 11-hour journey from Accra to WA. The city, whose major occupations are in the agricultural sector, is transforming. And that is where Justice Beidou is this week for the Joy Business Van. WA is known for its various tourist sites, and there are hundreds of visitors every year. It's there you'd find the New Young Empire Hotel, one of the most popular in the city. New Young is owned by entrepreneur Stephen Mwenkara. He left his corporate job some 4 years ago to start his own business. Stephen had never thought of being an entrepreneur, but growing up in a poverty-stricken environment, his determination in life was to succeed.
I live in a very poor environment, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe getting a meal a day was always a challenge. I went to maybe some of the best schools, or Ananose was one of the best schools at the time. It's still the best school, right? And I went to tech, but all those years were challenging years because my father didn't have enough money to give me the kind of thing that I wish I had as a child. And so in me, I never told anybody, but I always wanted to make sure that one day I should give my children what my father couldn't give me.
Stephen believed education would propel him to the status he wanted to accomplish in this life. Well, it did. Before he decided to start his own business, Stephen was head of agribusiness development at Guinness Ghana Breweries Limited. So what changed?
I think my motivation for business came up when I was working for TechnoServe. In TechnoServe, after 1 year, I became a business advisor. So I had to read books around businesses to be able to advise the clients that we had, which were mostly in the rural areas. And I started looking for business opportunities for them. And it was there I noticed how much money these guys could make if they took our advice. And some of them will make money, and just for a short period, because they'll spend the money on something else. They didn't reinvest the money. So it was there I started telling my wife, one day I'll do business, and I'll do it very well.
Stephen would discover a good business idea when he started his own building project. He couldn't acquire the materials in Wa. He would head down south all the way to Kumasi to purchase the materials he needed. So he decided he would begin to sell building materials. Soon, he'd want to set up a hostel too.
A few months when the foundation was done and I didn't have money, I said, okay, let me just slow down and do a hotel. So that's how come the hotel idea was born. And it took us some time. This is between 2002, that is if you're talking about conception of the idea, and we opened last year, so it took us way beyond 13 years. People didn't know what I was doing, but I was just taking my time, doing it bit by bit, still doing the business and working for TechnoServe and Guinness as well.
Today, New Young Empire Hotel does 60% of the hotel bookings in Wa, and it's just like any world-class hotel.
All right, so you always catch the Joy Business Fun on Wednesdays with a repeat on Thursdays on the Marketplace. And that wraps up this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Viafe. Let's meet again tomorrow. Good afternoon.